So to start out with, we're going to do the straightforward unsharp mask. So let's go over to our file and go to the word open. And remember, we are not using Camera Raw. And I have High Pass Sharpening as a separate folder in the sharpening one. So click to High Pass Sharpening. And over here, you'll find the picture that's called Palouse High Pass 3693 JPEG. That's the image that is in the tutorial that I gave you today and that is available. So let's select it. And I have to be sure that this image opens as a JPEG. So I play around with these so much, I check my format to be sure that I'm reading it as a JPEG. Then it will open in the editor. And this image is appropriate for this type of sharpening because it has a lot of detail I want to enhance. High pass sharpening should be used with images that have a lot of detail that needs enhancing, not just bringing the edges of an image back to what they were when you saw them. The normal unsharp mask did that fine. High pass sharpening is great for images with a lot of fine detail that needs to be enhanced. And this picture, taken in the Palouse region of the state of Washington, has exactly that. It has a lot of flowers that are very important. They will be more successful if they stand out from each other. And I want to apply that more to the detail than I do to any of these smooth areas in the back. Automatically, High Pass looks pretty much at the areas that are have a lot of detail. So to do this process, we need to make a copy of the background. You either do Layer, Duplicate Layer, or you do Command or Control J. In both cases, you get a new layer. If you like to have your instructions in your pictures, you can double click on the actual name of the layer, which in my case is Layer 1, and I can call it High Pass. So if I wonder later what I did on that layer, it tells me. The Enter key changes the name. So in order to do this, we're going to use the High Pass filter. It's found in the filter menu. So come up to the filter menu, pop it open, and at the bottom of all these filters you see Other. And if you look at the right, you'll see High Pass is one of the choices. If you will click High Pass, you will get this High Pass filter. It helps to identify the edges that you want to sharpen. So you'll notice I want to pick a radius that accentuates the details that I'm interested in sharpening and doesn't pick out the things I don't want to sharpen. If I raise the radius here, everything in the picture is visible, obviously way wrong. If I come down part way, it begins to sharpen the clouds. And that would be fine if I felt they were as important as the foreground. But I mentioned to you that my purpose here is to enhance the flower detail. So I'm going to lower the pixel radius. And the suggestion is somewhere between 1 and 4 pixels. And I'm going to pick out the point at which I think most of the sharpening will be on the foreground flowers. I have this at 2.3. It's not precise. But it tells me the clouds will not pick up the effect. It'll be a little bit back here in the grass, but mostly it's in the foreground. So when I'm satisfied, I can go and click OK. And it applies it to the High Pass one. And all I have to do to see the results is change the blend mode of this layer. Do you remember that above the top layer it says normal? That means this is the blend mode of this layer, how it relates to any layer below it. So if we go and change the normal to overlay, we'll get the strongest effect. And if you wonder, what did I do? Get the eyeball for the High Pass layer and see how you enhanced that and just gave a little crispness. It certainly tells you the foreground is the subject. And the background is beautiful setting for it, but the foreground is the front. Now, if I had overdone it, you know what I can do? I can lower the opacity. I don't really want to, but you see how I can lower that opacity? I did it the way I wanted it, so I didn't need to. But it doesn't, you should know that if you over sharpen in these, and as long as you're on a separate layer, you can always bring it back later. So don't worry too much. Don't err on the side of being too picky and not sharpening enough. Then you have to go back and do it over. If you've over sharpened a little bit, you can bring it down with the opacity slider. Okay? So that's the basic and very simple high pass filter. Let's take a look and remove the top layer and bring it back. Can you see that most of the effect is in the foreground? Very little has affected the background. You know, it's been affected. I put a copyright on this, and the copyright has picked up the filter. But I wouldn't have that if I was exhibiting this. So anyway, here is the effect of what the high pass did. It's quick and easy, just a few steps. And if I did not like what I had done, I could go back in the history, go back to the layer via copy, and change its name, that's fine. I could then reapply high pass with a different setting. So it's quite easy when you work in layers, and remember that you have a history panel, you can back up and do part of your work over again, which is very helpful.